welcome back to This Ohio Farmhouse. I am Jenna. We are just coming out of the 4th of July weekend. We had an awesome time with friends and family, but now it's time for me to start thinking fall garden. The 4th of July is that moment in the season where things kind of flip into broadening your gardening space and start growing more food for your family. And so that's what we are about to get ready to do. So this weekend we have a big event coming up on our homestead. Our church started a series of summer groups where like-minded people are getting together. So they have all kinds of groups starting for running and disc golf, and somebody started one for homesteading. And we were so shocked. We thought, oh my gosh, there's actually other people in our church that are homesteading or at least want to learn about it. And so we were invited to join this group. So we were really excited. We had our very first meeting and we had 4 families that showed up, and we were thrilled to get to know them and just have other like-minded people to share this journey with. So we offered to host the next one, and we thought, you know what, we're gonna jump in and we're gonna do this. And so we offered to host, and within a couple of weeks we got a message from the guy who started it, and he said, we are up to 18 families. And so this weekend, we're not hosting 4 families, we're hosting 18 families and all of their children. So it's going to be quite the event. We have a lot to get done and set up and ready to go for that. But the topic that we are actually sharing with them and talking about is the fall garden. And so I wanted to just share with you guys a little bit of what I'm going to be telling them and walking them through that process, because I think that a lot of us really get kind of stuck in this rut of, if I missed my time frame of growing early in the spring, it's too late to start growing now, and that's really just not the truth. So I am going to walk you through the things that can be planted right now and even up until a couple of months from now, and what that looks like and how you know what you can grow and what's going to be successful in your garden. Now, if you're interested in growing a fall garden, there's one big thing that you need to know, and that's that plants are broken into 3 major categories. You have early season plants, mid-season plants, and late season plants. Now, that doesn't mean what you think it does. Really, it's just breaking it into categories of how long their growing season is until you can harvest off of that plant. So you have early season plants first, and those are plants that have a harvest date that is about 30 or so days away from when you originally plant them. They're really fast growing crops, but typically they like to be in cooler weather. So they're things like lettuces, carrots, a lot of things like that that you can put into the ground. They grow fast, they're gonna germinate, they're gonna grow, but you can harvest them really quickly after that date. Those are not what you're going for your fall garden. Not quite yet. Those you're going to put in the ground a little bit later into the season when you're actually starting to go into cooler days ahead. If you were to plant them now, they grow much too fast, and they're going to start growing and producing, and they will actually bolt because of the heat, and we don't want that to happen. The next range of plants are mid-season plants, and these are things that range more from like 45 to 70 days. So there's actually a lot of things that fall into that mid-range category of being 45 to 70 days. There's things like cucumbers, cabbages, beans. There's a whole list of things that you could incorporate into your garden and plant right now in like the beginning to middle of July and still have plenty of time to harvest those. So when you take a look on the back of your seed pack, I'm going to grab one here just to show you. Okay, I'm going to come in here and just show you what this looks like. So on the back of your seed pack, it's going to give you a lot of valuable information, but what we're really looking for right now is this little bit of information that says your days to maturity. Now, this is a seed pack that says 85 days, and that really is probably pushing it for us in Ohio for something that could grow. I might be daring enough to put something like that in and just see how well it does, but I'm trying to maximize my growing space and not waste anything. I want to get the most food possible for my family without wasting space. So you want to make sure that you're picking things that are going to be able to be harvested before your first frost date. Now the other category is the late season plants, and those are things that have really long maturity days, which are anywhere from like 90 to 120 days. Things like melons and tomatoes and peppers have really, really long growing seasons. The only way that you could maybe put in a double harvest of tomatoes is if you planted starts indoors ahead of time or in a greenhouse and you had a plant ready to go at this time of the year. You could not put a seed in the ground and have enough time in order to harvest that by the time your first frost date comes around. We just don't have that kind of growing season here. We don't have hundreds of days like a lot of places have. And so that's just not something that we can do. If you were to maybe a month or a month and a half ago had started plants indoors, and then you could move those plants outside right now, and then you could maybe double up on your tomato harvest. It's not a complicated thing to do, but it does take a little bit of thought and effort to kind of map out and schedule when all of those things need to happen. Now, when you look at charts and things that share with you what a mid-season crop is, sometimes it's going to share things like garlic. Now, garlic is indeed a mid-season crop because you harvest it around the 4th of July, and so it's not taking up an entire growing season. But what you need to know is that it actually gets planted about a month prior to when your first frost comes. So right now it's much too early to plant your garlic. You're gonna wanna wait until you're closer to your first frost date, because you want to get a little bit of a sprout and then it's going to frost over and harden. But then when the spring comes, it's going to be just the amount of root structure and growth in place to be able to continue that and so that you can actually harvest that come the 4th of July. So that is also considered a mid-season, but it's not something you could put in the ground right now and harvest it later on. So you're looking for mid-season crops that you can put in the ground right now. Basically, if it has a short enough growing season in that range between 40 and 70 days, and you have the space to do it, and it's a plant that doesn't mind the heat, you're good to go, and you can put in a whole new garden. If you haven't started one yet, don't be afraid to put a whole bunch of things in your garden space now, because you have plenty of time to grow quite a bit of food. All right, so this is where I have snap peas growing, and they did fairly decent this year. We got quite a bit off of them, probably a lot more than I actually am aware of because the kids come out and snack on them all day. But they're kind of nearing their end, and so I have to decide at this point, do I let them keep growing, or is this something that I can tear out because there's very little harvesting coming out of this at this point, and just plant something completely new? So I think I'm actually going to be tearing these out in the next week or so, and I'm going to plant beans in here and grow these up the trellis and hopefully get a whole lot more harvest out of these raised beds. To be quite honest, my attitude in the past has kind of been, gardening's a lot of work, and I don't know that I want to do a whole second set of gardening. But I've gotten past that because the alternative to that is leaving bare ground. Bare ground means that weed seeds fly in and they take root, and it's a constant battle to get all of those weeds back out of your garden. So you're better off to plant as much food as you can and use the nutrients in the soil that way rather than depleting it with weeds. I would rather have food for my family than a lot more combating weeds in my life, because I do enough of that already. If you don't want to put in a full garden and grow lots of food, I would recommend putting in a cover crop. And for the areas where it's not going to work for me to grow, I am considering putting in, there's a variety of different cover crops that will just cover your ground and just make sure that you're eliminating weeds, and it's going to actually put nutrients and different things into your soil and help you to have better soil quality for next year when you get started. Well, it's time for me to go get to work. We have all kinds of projects that we're working on to try to get ready for this group of people that are coming this weekend. We will share with you some bits and pieces of what that looks like. We have tents and tables and chairs coming in and a whole group of people, and we cannot wait to meet all of them because there's a lot of people on this list that we just don't know yet. And so we're just thrilled to get to do life with them and to just get to know them. So we're super excited about this opportunity. So we will share with you how that went and what that looked like, but it's time for me to get to work. So thanks for hanging out with us. We're always glad that you're here. We'll see you next week.